So guys, we have now arrived in Bariloche. This is not actually the day after I arrived. This is what the day after I arrived looked like. You can see that it was snowing really heavy. And when it snows in Bariloche, I've said this before, it's unusual. Normally you get more wet snow or rain down in Bariloche. And then as you drive up to the ski resort, it starts to snow as you get higher. And it's unusual for it to snow in Bariloche. And at this time of year, as I've already said, there are tons and tons of school kids, Brazilians, Argentinians here, and a lot of them have never seen snow before and certainly not driven in snow. So it's always chaos on a snow day if there's any snow lying around, especially because a lot of the cars aren't equipped here like we would have in Austria with winter tires, etc. So the first day anyway, luckily for us, we were just set up doing a lot of meetings. But after we've had a couple of meetings, we're now going to take you up to Cerro Catedral today. We're not going to be skiing today. We're going to have a look around. It's actually about just after 8 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark because we're in the throes of winter. Sunrise is about 9 o'clock at this time of year and sets about 18:45, I think, is sunset. So it's a little bit of a drive because we're in this sort of centre area, what we call the 2-kilometre line from the centre, and we're now going to drive to Bariloche. So guys, we've driven away from the hotel. It's about 14 kilometres, I think, to drive to the ski resort. What we do is we hire a fleet of cars, as you can see here. We don't use like the public bus transport or any of the services that are put on for guests in groups to go into vans or something like that. We prefer to have our own fleet of renter cars, which makes things much more comfortable. And of course, we can be flexible that way. We can choose when we want to start, when we want to finish, especially with weather conditions here in the Andes as well. It's important that you have that flexibility. One thing I've found in the over 15 years that I've been down here in South America is, weather's unpredictable from season to season. I mean, here I'm just arriving into the ski base area and I can see it's still 2 degrees and wet here. It's obviously snowed up here, which, as I've said before, can be quite unusual because a lot of the time it actually doesn't really snow until you get up to the higher elevations. Now, that's actually a good thing in one sense, because when it snows really down at low elevations, the traffic becomes a nightmare trying to get up here because people just can't drive in the snow. They're just not used to it. They don't understand how to drive the cars in these type of conditions. So anyway, you can actually stay in apartments or in accommodation hotel type here in Cerro Catedral, where I'm just arriving. But I would advise you generally not to do that, because if you've ever stayed somewhere like Las Leñas or Potillo or somewhere like that in South America, they're very much just a ski resort and there's not really much going on here. At the centre of Bariloche itself, there's far more to do, and it gives you flexibility at night time with restaurants and the atmosphere there as well. So we're just about to park the car. What they do here is they basically charge you to park your vehicle. This year it's about 1,200 pesos, and that on the blue rate will be about €3 to park your car. So let me park and then I'll continue. We'll have a wander through and I'll show you around the resort. So we've parked the cars, guys. As you can see, I mean, it's still dark here this time of year. And as I said, the sun doesn't come up till 9 o'clock. This sort of Cerro Catedral is a small village or town, if you like, within a ski area. And it's great because it does have a lot of amenities. I mean, you know, even medically as well, it's got that sort of thing. It's got loads of little fast food restaurants, loads of opportunities to buy your lift passes here if you haven't already done so online. And yeah, it's actually, for me, it's not so normal to see snow in the valley all the time. It often does rain, I mean, probably with climate change and things like that, down in the valley, even at Cerro Catedral. What's important to skiers is what's going on up there, and that's where it snows mostly. You never really ski below the mid stations anyway. You're always using the upper station area when you're out there skiing. As I've said before, at this time of year, insanely busy. That's why we're not skiing again today. I've just come up here because I need to have a meeting with the ski resort. But we also thought this gives us an opportunity as the sun starts to come up. You'll be to see a little bit of the top, but to give you a look around what Cerro Catedral looks like. As well as the many coffee shops, chocolate shops, weirdly enough here, and there's just so many ski rental stations for skis, boots, snowboards, etc. Don't forget, out here in South America, snowboarding is extremely popular. You can often see it split 50-50 between skiers and boarders. You know, it's much more popular than it is in Europe. On top of all that, there's just a trillion ski schools, all in the same area. But I would strongly advise that this is not the place to come as a beginner. It's got great beginner terrain to learn to ski, but there are a lot of beginners. I mean, it's probably 80% of the traffic coming through here is beginners, and it's not a location or a destination where you should bring beginner skiers. This is much more a place where skiers who've got, you know, at least 5 weeks plus might consider, and the more experience you have, the better, because the terrain up there is phenomenal to ski if you're a good skier, or at least a strong intermediate. We're going to now go into actually another area where there's actually even a shopping complex, like a shopping mall here at Cerro Catedral. So as you can see, inside this shopping area, it's where a lot of people hang out before the lifts open, if they're coming for a coffee, a media luna, a bit of breakfast. Also the ticket office is actually just next to here, or one of the ticket offices. And I'll take you there in a minute. But the main lift, called the sextuple, which is a turbo lift, like a power lift system, is actually just like 20 meters from here. So if you arrive early, you can have a quick coffee and then jump into the queue before you go up to the actual resort itself. This is one of the main two methods, if you like, of getting up high quickly. There are other ways, but this is certainly the quickest way to come. So sextuple is my best tip to get on the mountain fast. It opens at 9 o'clock. It's a turbo lift, but it's a 6-seater as well. So here's the sextuple, which is, as I said, the main method of getting up fast on this lift system. This is about as busy as I ever see this at this time in the day. Of course, it's a Sunday, so it's race club day, so all the kids are out in force as well. Normally at 9 o'clock, to be honest with you might wait a minute at the longest when it gets into August. Behind me is the actual ticket office, where you can get your passes and collect your passes and things like that. So everything's pretty well centered around this area. In Cerro Catedral, there are two main sort of ticket offices, which are known as boleteria. A boleteria is basically a ticket office. Amancay is actually a very old gondola system. It tends to not open as soon as the sextuple, which is why we always go up the sextuple, which is my tip. It's also more reliable, the sextuple, than Amancay. Amancay takes you to the left area of the ski resort, whereas the sextuple takes you to the better runs of the right side. That said, there is a new lift system opened, so I will check out the new Telecía, the new chairlift, when I get up there, which is not going to be today, as I've said before. But yeah, it's a big area, Cerro Catedral, at the base station. There's actually so much to do down here, but obviously our attraction is what's up there. So guys, because it is such a grey and wet day and we don't want to be on those slopes because it's so busy, I thought I'd take advantage to bring you into the centre of San Carlos de Bariloche. Of course, it's not the most picturesque because it is so grey, but normally it's absolutely beautiful when you get a nice clear day down here, with the lake to my right side here, and of course the fantastic area of San Carlos de Bariloche, these traditional buildings, and the main street just going down in this direction, which I'm about to take you along. It's a great place. If you're coming with a partner, for example, that does not want to ski, doesn't like skiing, for example, there's still tons to do in this area when you're coming down here for both people. Let's have a look around. It's really strange to think that Bariloche is quite famous for its chocolate. You'll see like loads of chocolate shops. Fortunately, that means that it's good chocolate, but there's relatively decent coffee in some of these shops as well. A decent coffee to find in Argentina is not that easy, actually. But when you start to know which cafes actually have a good coffee, then we tend to frequent those places. Well, if you haven't had enough from snow and cold and skiing, Bariloche even has an ice rink that you can also try as well. And it's based inside a lovely chocolate shop again and coffee shop where you get the most tremendous cakes, waffles and everything in this place. Really cool place to hang out and really cheap too.